Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Joe Palmer begins now.
Good evening, everyone. Police have arrested and charged a 46-year-old woman suspected of murdering a 71-year-old relative in her South Launceston home. Authorities are now trying to extradite the suspect after she fled to Western Australia in a case which has shocked local residents.
A floral tribute sits at the door of 71-year-old Veronica Corstephine's Keene Street home. The academic, described as polite but reserved by neighbours, was allegedly killed in her own home. Police say she was murdered nearly a month before her body was finally found, after a friend lodged a concern for welfare.
On police attending that address, we discovered the body, and as a result of that, investigation was undertaken.
That investigation has led police to Western Australia. Tasmanian authorities have travelled to Bunbury, south of Perth, in an attempt to extradite a 46-year-old relative charged with her murder.
The deceased has been living in Tassie at that address for about 3 years, and the other person had come over and to stay with her and been there since early August.
Details over how she died haven't been confirmed, but it's understood no weapons were used. The case has shocked nearby residents.
I always thought it was a safe place, you know. Nothing ever happens in this street. We just don't think of anything like that.
It's unbelievable. It's such a quiet little street in the middle of South Lonnie, so yeah, it's a real shock.
Corstephine was also an active supporter of the Labor Party.
A lady that had a heart of gold and had a very strong social justice value, and she was just part of our team and our support and a party member. So, you know, I'm just still in shock, quite frankly.
The accused is likely to be extradited early next week. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A body believed to be a missing Westbury man has been found 5 days after he vanished. Retired Dr Jeffrey Tresize was last seen near his home on Monday. Today, police confirmed a body believed to be the 85-year-old was found in bushland at Birraley. Police say there are no suspicious circumstances and a report will be prepared for the coroner. A police officer has been injured during an alleged evade incident at Risdon Vale this afternoon. Investigators say he was involved in an operation trying to stop a stolen car when he was hit by it.
A crumpled vehicle loaded onto the back of a tow truck, the aftermath of a dramatic incident in Risdon Vale which unfolded here this afternoon. Around midday, the stolen car was used to evade police around Bridgewater and Gagebrook for around half an hour.
Authorisation has been given for our vehicle immobilising device to be deployed in an attempt to apprehend that vehicle.
The scene ended here on Grasstree Hill Road, but during the operation, police say an officer was struck by the car. He was taken to the Royal Hobart Hospital with injuries to his arm and leg, but they aren't life-threatening.
It's extremely unfortunate that one of our police officers has been injured by that vehicle as the matter unfolded.
Despite the precarious situation, a 27-year-old man police say was driving the car and a 16-year-old passenger were arrested.
The officers are to be commended for what they did in this instance. Irrespective of the fact that the officer's been injured, he continued on.
This area sees quite a lot of traffic, but for the past hour or so, a lot of it has been at a standstill while the area's cleared.
It was expected that at the end of a lengthy investigation, they will be charged.
Louise Hedger, 7 Tasmania News.
A Sydney woman accused of being part of a major drug operation importing a large-scale amount of illicit drugs into Tasmania has today pleaded guilty in Hobart's Supreme Court. Alexandra Rose Kabelki was extradited to Tasmania earlier this year. The 26-year-old's lawyer telling the court Ms Kabelki travelled to Tasmania on 14 separate occasions, at times using false names. During those trips, she carried a large amount of drugs and cash on her. It is expected she'll be sentenced on the 20th of November. There's been another rescue in snow-affected parts of the state. The rescue helicopter picked up a 59-year-old Victorian man in the Lake Mackenzie area this afternoon. He was reported overdue from a hike after failing to return a rental car and catch a flight home. He was spotted uninjured, taking shelter in his tent. It comes after 2 adults and an infant were rescued from the overland track at Cradle Mountain yesterday in severe snow conditions. Tasmania's paramedics have been forced to call off planned action against hospital ramping, but they have given the government a 14-day deadline to fix serious safety concerns. While their plans remain on hold for now, paramedics have warned if nothing changes, the threat of further action remains on the table.
Paramedics left in shock, forced to cancel protests against chronic ramping at the Royal Hobart Hospital. Threats to stop treating patients in ramped areas shut down last minute by the workplace regulator.
Came as a complete surprise to us, given that Ambulance Tasmania and our safety reps had agreed that there were a number of serious issues in that corridor through a safety audit some month ago.
WorkSafe have determined the matter. That's how our system works. It's how it should work, with that independent oversight.
In response, crisis meetings held this morning between paramedics and health bosses to discuss the concerns.
We're prepared to give them a short period of time to resolve them, but in the end, if necessary, that action is still available to the safety reps, and they will seriously consider that action.
This protest, the latest plea for help. Medical professionals saying it all comes down to a lack of beds and funding.
The primary cause seems to be bed block. We're just not getting our patients through the emergency department quick enough. The job's hard enough, let alone for there to be problems created by lack of government support.
This is fundamentally about beds. It's fundamentally about the lack of availability of health resources.
Unions have now set a 2-week deadline for change before action ramps up once again. Michelle Wisby, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania's social services leaders are again pleading for an increase to welfare payments. An inquiry into Newstart today heard harrowing figures on the number of Tasmanians relying on food aid and warnings young people are being pushed to the fringes of society.
Jacinta Antoniazzi lives off $600 a fortnight from youth allowance, but her rent costs $470 over the same time. The 21-year-old law student only just manages to get by.
Dunno. Savings, I guess. Savings till they run out.
Her payments and those relying on Newstart were today in the spotlight of a Commonwealth inquiry visiting Tasmania. The message from the state's welfare leaders was clear.
That low level of Newstart becomes a barrier, it becomes an entrenchment.
As people get trapped in the Newstart, it gets harder and harder and harder.
Raising Newstart is one step that can be taken to start to address the complex, interconnected issues that we're talking about.
A startling number of Northwest children were also revealed to be relying on charity for breakfast at school.
And these programs serve around 2,000 students per week.
Young people are a key concern. Colony 47 says young job seekers are being pushed into regional areas because of high urban rents.
The employer, say in the city of Hobart, will look at them as being very employable, but won't take them on because they know that transport in particular is a barrier for them.
The federal government has resisted calls to raise welfare. Labor insists the payments are too low.
We would support the Australian Council of Social Services call for the rate to be raised to at least $75 a week so that young people can cover the cost of living.
It'd make the world a difference. It would mean that I could go to the supermarket and actually buy more healthier options because, you know, fruit and veg is really expensive.
The inquiry is expected to hand down its report by March next year. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Long-awaited action at Hobart's Macquarie Point has taken a small step forward. Remediation works officially started on part of the site to prepare the first parcel of land for development.
At long last, we are in the position with our planning master plan in place and with contracts in place and council approval in place, we're now remediating this site. This is the critical next step to actually activating this important site.
The process is set to take 3 months, with the next step to construct an access road in early 2020. Plans for a $50 million hotel in Launceston are now in limbo after a successful appeal by opponents. Tasmania's Planning Appeal Tribunal has overturned Council's approval of the 39-metre building. The appeal was lodged by neighbouring restaurant owner Susie Kai.
It really has been a David and Goliath battle. She's just a little lazy, and she's taken on a multi-million-dollar giant, and she's won.
The developer is calling on the council to consider a special area plan to allow the landmark building to proceed. A Green Thumb's dream is playing out at UTAS Stadium, with 25,000 square metres of new turf rolling out onto the ground. It's one of the final steps in a multi-million-dollar upgrade which promises better drainage and a superior playing surface.
If you love your lawn, it doesn't get much better than this. Each of these 14-metre rolls of turf weigh a tonne. Together, they're creating a playing surface set to be the envy of the nation.
To see it reach this stage is sort of a mixture of great relief, but also a lot of pride.
Once the turf is cut into rolls, it has to be installed quickly to keep it in peak condition. It will take 7 days to lay the 25,000 square metre field, all of it matching the height of the wicket in the middle.
What Brian has said, Brian Dunn, our curator, he said when it went in, it seems to have gone in the best it's ever gone in. It's as flat as it's ever been. So, let's hope it plays nice and true, but we think it will.
The project is staggering in its scale. The council estimates trucks went in and out of the stadium 1,100 times to remove the previous playing field. It took a year to grow the giant field of new turf at Dilston, and once it's all laid out, it'll still need to be mowed at least once a day. It really feels like you're walking out onto something special, the same surface where plenty more memorable moments will be added to Tasmania's sporting history. And it all begins with a Big Bash game on December 30. The best part? Drainage issues are set to become a thing of the past.
In the past, the water would just sit around and not be able to drain away, so now it's going to be able to drain away very quickly. For cricket, that's so critical, we know that, but even for football these days, we know it's important to have drainage.
The new turf is expected to thrive for the next 20 years. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
A motorboat struck trouble in the Derwent River this afternoon. Authorities had to send help when the vessel lost power off Howrah Point around 2 o'clock. After connecting a tow line, the boat was taken to shore at Sandy Bay. Police say no injuries were reported. Hundreds of Tasmanian school children have broken a musical Guinness World Record. Almost 500 students from 20 schools playing marimba in unison, beating the previous record by more than 370 people.
Reading their music and getting ready to hit the right notes. 480 school children gathering together to try and make it into the record books.
Well, we're going to try and break the Guinness Book of Records for the most children playing marimbas or xylophones all at the same time.
Students from 20 schools taking to marimbas.
I've been doing marimba for about 2 years now. And yeah, I've been excited to doing this since my brother did it 2 years ago.
I mean, out in my class we're doing math tests, so this is much better.
In order to beat the record, students needed to play the same piece of music for 5 minutes without stopping. The attempt a culmination of months of hard work by both students and teachers.
We have our music classes, and then recently we've also had a few just special rehearsals for this, so we've done a lot of work.
I love performing music, so that's the best part.
Receiving the news this afternoon that their numbers will beat the current record, with video review to go before an official confirmation.
My brother didn't believe me for a while. I had to convince him.
Yeah, it's going to be really awesome to be in the Guinness World Records because, who doesn't want to be there?
The students will be showing off their skills with 2 public performances at Princess Wharf 1 tomorrow afternoon. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
Richmond star Jack Riewoldt says he would consider finishing off his playing career with a Tasmanian side if the state is granted an AFL licence before he retires from the game. The two-time Premiership Tiger is set to test himself in the harness tomorrow night at the Australian Drivers' Championships in Hobart. A long-standing dream that some feel may never come to fruition, but the proud Tasmanian says he can sense a change in the air.
The push at the moment, obviously, to get to that own AFL side is certainly gathering momentum.
With 2 Richmond Premiership flags to his name, it's likely Riewoldt will end his career as a one-club player, but says that could change if AFL House finally decides to take Tasmania's bid for a team seriously before his playing days are numbered.
Bar the grand finals that I've played in and big finals, my favourite memories of playing AFL footy is actually playing against North Melbourne at Bellerive Oval. It's where I grew up. It really is sentimental for me.
If not as a player, Riewoldt says he'd be receptive to taking up a mentoring or coaching role within a Tasmanian AFL club down the track, but for now he's focused on getting through tomorrow night's Australian Drivers' Championships at Hobart's Elwick Racecourse in one piece.
I'm actually involved in the race, I'm pretty sure, in a double sulky. A friend of mine works at Tas Racing and he's assured me that they're safe.
While Richmond fans will get the chance to relive September's Premiership win when the Cup makes its way to Tasmania next Saturday.
I think it's in the NT at the moment, so it's up with Daniel, the Tiwi Islands, so it's going to make its way from probably the northernmost part of Australia to the southernmost part of Australia.
Details on the Tasmanian Cup Tour will be posted on the Richmond Football Club website in the coming days.
Good evening. It was a cloudy, cold and wet day across Tasmania today. 13 at Hobart, a high of 15 across Launceston and Burnie, 16 at Devonport. Other centres today, 14 at Flinders Island and Ouse, St Helens, Strahan and King Island all reached a high of 13 and 16 at Friendly Beaches. On the close-up shows low-level convective cloud over most of Tasmania. Further out, a westerly airstream arrives behind the cold front with areas of low cloud over Tasmania, Victoria, southern New South Wales and southern parts of South Australia. Tomorrow shows a surface trough crossing Tasmania during the day, while a high pressure system in the Bight dominates most of the weather on the mainland. Southwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 4 metres in the west and south and around 1 metre in the north. A gale wind warning is current for northern coastal waters from Sandy Cape to St Helens Point, excluding Banks Strait and Franklin Sound for west to southwesterly winds. A strong wind warning for all remaining coastal waters. A frost warning for parts of the central north, northeast, Midlands forecast districts. A warning to sheep graziers for the northwest coast and southeast forecast districts, and a bushwalkers weather alert for the central plateau and western forecast districts. Tomorrow's forecast now, a shower or two across Hobart and Oatlands, 11 at Maydena. In the north, 15 at Launceston, windy with showers at Devonport, Lyowini, 8. 13 across Burnie and Marrawar tomorrow, windy with showers at Strahan, and reaching a high of 16 across St Helens, Swansea and Orford. The UV forecast, high 7s across the state. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Sunday showers about the west and far south, Monday showers about the west and south, and Tuesday showers about the west, south and Bass Strait Islands in the late evening. Capital cities 30 in Brisbane tomorrow, partly cloudy across Adelaide and Canberra, and Darwin 34. And looking at current temperatures, Hobart partly cloudy 9, Launceston mostly sunny 11 and Devonport again mostly sunny and 11. That's all in weather tonight. Back to you, Jo.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that, Jackie. And that's all from the news team for now. We'll join you with updates a little later, but for now, goodbye.